You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here again today. I am so glad that you have decided to join me. This is the Rise Above podcast, and you are listening to episode number 6. I'm your host, Greg Smith, and I believe if you desire uncommon freedom in business and in life, it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. So last week, we talked about not waiting until you're 67 to live the life that you truly deserve. Live life like you're retired now. And you know, there is no better time in history ever than right now to have the ability to do that. People will look back at our generation in really the past 100 years. They'll say they were the first people with radio. They were the first people with cars. They were the first people, our generation, with the internet. With the internet. We are literally the first humans that we know of ever to be on this earth to have the connection and the technology of the internet, where literally I can broadcast a message like this one right here all across the world with the stroke of a button. And so it would be, in my eyes, almost silly not to utilize the internet for our lives, for our businesses, and ultimately to be able to live like we're retired. You know, most people are stuck, and this was me 11 years ago. Most people are stuck trading their time for hours. And I'm not just talking about somebody who's an employee. I'm also talking about entrepreneurs. I know this because I was a gym owner myself, and for many years, I traded my time for hours. And so most people are literally a prisoner of a life that they created, and they have yet to create the lifestyle that they truly deserve. So today, I am going to share with you, I've never done this before, but today I'm going to share with you the 7 essentials to creating a cash flow producing asset. We're going to talk about how to evaluate and really make an informed decision and choice on the direction that you're going to go. Because last week we talked very, very heavily about my feelings about 401ks. I talked about debt and a whole slew of other things. And one of the major things we talked about was decreasing the outflow out of your pocket, the money that goes out every single month, your bills, what's required of you, and increasing the inflow. There's a lot of things out there, a lot of concepts out there that talk about budgeting. Budgeting. And budgeting is good when you're first starting out, but in the end, you can almost budget yourself to poverty. And I think budgeting at a very high level and at an extreme creates a scarcity mindset. And so I think when you start thinking about how can I produce and how can I have more inflow, then you start thinking in abundance, and you start thinking, how can I provide more value to the world in order for that to come in? And I know for me, 11 years ago, before I really took the uncommon leap of becoming an entrepreneur, originally when I was 18, which was more than 11 years ago, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I really didn't know what that meant, but I knew enough that for me, I decided not to go to college because I didn't know what college would provide for me that would help me get to where I wanted to go. And so I did a lot of weird things in between the age of 18 and 21, 22. And I, literally tried to start a used tire business where I bought this box van from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, drove it 3 hours back to Columbus on New Year's Eve, had to stop like every 10 minutes, refill the radiator with water. It had no brakes. And let's just say that business didn't go anywhere. And I also remember buying a late night info product to have my own cash flow producing real estate business, at the ripe age of like 19. Well, I didn't have any money, to acquire these assets. So that never worked out. Just timing, wasn't for me. And I remember feeling so frustrated because I knew I didn't want to be somewhere where I felt like I was literally locked there, like I did when I was in school, where it was like I had to go in, be there at 7:45, didn't get, everybody was just waiting for the bell. I didn't want to wait for the bell for the rest of my life until I got off work. And that was the life that I saw myself going down. And I was so frustrated seeing that. And ultimately, no matter what I did, I still ended up in that position where I had a corporate job, talked about this. But what happened was through a series of events that I call, quote unquote, air quotes here, coincidence, God incognito, leading me from one person to the next, and through relationships, which I talked about as well in previous episodes, how for me, deep and loving relationships is very important. Through a series of relationships, I got introduced to this business that really changed my life forever. And it helped me realize the 7 essentials for understanding how to create a cash flow producing asset and what to look for when you're going to do that. And so fortunately, I was led to an uncommon mentor. I've been mentored in many things now. And we have created a business where just last year, in the past year and a half, so past 18 months, we've done $19.5 million in sales just in the past year and a half. It's been absolutely amazing. But the cool thing is we have helped so many other people do the same thing. So let's talk about the 7 essentials to really evaluating, something that you can do. Because with the internet, which is what's awesome, is we can do so many things. This is the bad part. We can do so many things and we have so much information available to us that we can kind of get stuck not knowing what to do. And I don't want that to be you, because I know that I can get into a phase personally where I really overanalyze. And when I start to overanalyze, I literally get paralyzed and I don't do anything. And so I want to help you with these 7 essentials so that you can look at things and say, yes, maybe I should evaluate that more, or absolutely hardline no's. Because now I've dialed this in so well that I can literally, if somebody approaches me with something, I can tell very quickly, nope, that doesn't align with me. That doesn't align with my thoughts or my theories or my beliefs. And so I want to help you dial in some of those things, and then you can do your own research, but hopefully I can save you some time. And so the very first thing that you want to look for when you're looking to create a little side business or get into something to start creating a cash flow producing asset is there a large and expanding industry that you can get into? And if so, what is it? One of those would be the real estate market, specifically very close to college campuses. That would be one. The real estate market very close to, here in Ohio, we have a lot of fracking going on, oil and gas going on. And so having real estate close to where that's a large and expanding industry. Something else that's large and expanding, I was thinking about just the other day as I was driving, is the wellness industry, the medical industry. I see hospital after little mini emergency clinics that are popping up. That tells me that people are in need of medical care. For me, the expanding industry that I want to be in and that I am in is preventative to that, is preventative to getting somebody to that point where they need the medical community. It's not to say that the medical community is void. We need it. But I want to help people to where they minimize how much they need it. And so I believe that the health and wellness industry is by far, and statistically, it is, when you're talking about trillions of dollars that are being spent in that industry, is one of the largest expanding industries in the world. Another one would be technology. I mean, when you're talking about app development and software, that is just, that to me, I don't know because I didn't go to school to have that kind of education. You can get it, MIT, you may not know, MIT has all of their books online free that you can access. So somebody could get into that if they wanted to. But for me, which we'll talk about with the following 6, it just doesn't align. So health and wellness for me is one of those things. Now, the second thing that has to be an absolute is whatever you decide to do must improve the quality of life for the person, okay? And so if you look at real estate as an example, and you're providing rentals for people, you are providing a quality of life for them and an ability for them to have a place to live that they might not otherwise have due to the lack of funds for down payments, due to the lack of income maybe to be able to get qualified for a home. And so now you can provide that for somebody, right? Something else would be coaching. I coach wrestling. I love wrestling. I don't get paid for it. I volunteer kindergarten through 6th grade right now. Used to do high school. It's just where my kids are. But, coaching and teaching people improves the quality of life with somebody. Now, you can make a lot of money in a very large and expanding industry, unfortunately, which could be heroin or cocaine or methamphetamines. And you could also not be improving the quality of life. So that's a little extreme, but my point is there's a lot of different ways you can make money, but is it something that's truly improving somebody's quality of life? Okay. And that's why I'm talking about the health and wellness industry for me, or maybe it's real estate for you. Maybe it's technology, but are you providing something that truly improves somebody's quality of life? That's number 2. And as you can tell, my passion for that, it's something that's very, very important. Very important because you will reap what you sow. And if you are not sowing true, complete value for other people, you will not reap value. All right. So let's move to number 3. Number 3 is this. It must be virtual and not limited to a geographical place. You cannot be limited to a geographical place. It must be virtual. This is the day and age of the internet. Okay, listen to me. I'm telling you, now you can do so many things that you could never do literally 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there were things that you cannot do that you can do today on the internet, through software, through technology, to where you can literally reach the masses of people. You think about this podcast as an example. Prior to podcasting or YouTube, for that matter, the only way to have something like this would be to have your own radio station. And even then, your radio station would be limited geographically to how far your signal could get out. And then came satellite, right? And, Howard Stern moved into satellite. That was one of the reasons. Then he expanded out and he was syndicated. But now I have the ability from my office right now to be broadcasting a message worldwide. And you do too.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
And so there's never, it really doesn't make sense. I remember the story. We were in New Orleans. We had some friends down there. And a gentleman had a really amazing restaurant down there. But unfortunately, through the hurricane and the flooding that took place down there, they got relocated. And they ended up moving to Atlanta. And when they moved to Atlanta, they still haven't been able to find the same success that they had back in New Orleans. And it's unfortunate. But their business was, although it was an amazing business, it was limited by where it was. And it was limited by how many people it could help. I think about my gym that I owned, a decade ago. We were very profitable. I started it from the ground floor up. It was a great business. We had great members. Some of you may be listening right now. And it was phenomenal. Culture was great. But the problem for me was I was limited to being inside of those four walls. And even when I wasn't limited inside of those four walls, I was limited to that town and that town only. And barring, some unforeseen circumstance or natural disaster, we were doing great. But if something were to happen, that business could go away very quickly, very quickly. And so I believe that you must be virtual and you must not limit yourself to any one place. And you can do that through the internet. All right, number 4, you have to have something that is unique and it's got to be consumable. Unique and consumable. You can't be providing something that Walmart can sell or Amazon can sell, because in that case, you're always going to be playing the who can sell it cheaper, the who can sell it cheaper game. And Walmart will always win. There's a reason they're the number one retailer for stores currently. And there's also a reason that Amazon is number one when it comes to global distribution, really, through their network. And it's because they have such mass distribution that they can sell things really for less than somebody like you or I can. And so you have to have something that is unique, but it's also got to be consumable. We talked about rent. Rent is consumable. If you think about Procter & Gamble and the things that they provide, they are consumable. They're household products. They are things that people have to continue to buy. You think about the grocery store. What you get at the grocery store, food primarily, toilet paper, shampoo, soap, makeup, those things are all consumable. And so if you're in that niche, one of those, and you acquire a customer, that customer actually becomes the asset. The person becomes the asset in a consumable product. It's not the product, it's the person. A mortgage on your home, you might think the house is the asset to the bank, and it's one of. But the real asset and the reason you have to get qualified to buy a home is because they want to make sure you can pay them every month. So you are the asset to the bank when it comes to having a loan. People are the asset. And so you want to have a consumable where you can acquire people or a network that you can be in a large and expanding territory. You can provide values or products that truly improve the quality of life, be virtual, right? And unique, and you can provide them something that is consumable. And therefore, as you keep that person purchasing because they love the product, that creates the asset. The network is really what relates to your net worth. Number 5 is it must be something that's highly leverageable. You have to be able to duplicate and scale it. Talking about my gym in the past, that's something that could be scaled only to an extent. I had a gym manager, had multiple trainers, but at some point, I was going to have to get either a second location or continue to expand, which I did 4 or 5 times at this point, in order to grow my business. You think about Facebook. Facebook is something that improves your quality of life because you can communicate to all of your friends. You can be social. It's obviously an expanding industry, as is, Instagram, which is the largest right now of a social network. It's virtual, not limited. It's unique. And really, it's consumable because you can hop on every single day and you can consume what? Content. But who owns the content? Does Facebook own the content? Yeah, probably somehow. But who's providing the content? People. So Facebook is really a medium to connect people to content. Uber, the largest quote unquote taxi company in the world, doesn't own any cars. They own the network. They own the distribution. They connect the people to the service or the product. Airbnb is the same way. Airbnb owns no homes, but they connect people, a consumer, right? Consumable. They connect people to consume the rent of a home. Literally, they own no homes. They own the network. They own the distribution. And that's the magic behind that. So you have to make sure that it's something that can be scaled either through software technology, or it can be scaled through the efforts of other people whom you're helping. The sixth thing is that you want to have little to no overhead when starting out. Minimal red tape. I mean, I'm talking low barrier to entry, something that you can get your feet wet and see if it's going to be something that works out without having a large investment, without having operating agreements, legal mumbo jumbo, lots of fees up front. I've gone through this. I've owned multiple businesses. And the best businesses I've ever owned, I have bootstrapped from the floor up with maybe one other partner, never more than one, typically by myself. And I was able to do it by just putting sweat equity in for the most part, and then reinvesting my profits. This is discipline. You have to reinvest your profits to get you to where you want to go. You can't start having your cake right away. You have to reinvest. So little to no overhead starting out. The seventh thing, which is the most important, and I want to get to because I try to keep these podcasts tight, is mentorship. Having mentorship, because you could have 1 through 6. You can be inside of a large and expanding territory. You could have products that improve the quality of life for somebody. You could align yourself with a company that has that. You could be virtual, not limited to a location geographically. You can be unique. You can have a consumable product. You can have something that is able to be scaled, right? You can have leverage. You can be getting in with little to no overhead. But do you have somebody that's teaching you how to do it? Do you have a mentor that's helping you every step of the way? There's 2 ways you can get a mentor. You can either pay for one or you can gain their favor. You can either pay for one or you can gain their favor. You know, I'm a big proponent of gaining favor, but I can tell you that I've spent tens of thousands of dollars to pay for it as well, depending on what I'm, where I'm at. This podcast was an example of that. To get it off the ground, I paid. I could have done sweat equity, but for leverage and time, I paid to do it. So having a mentor who is somebody that is experienced in what you're looking to do, having them teach you the ropes is priceless. They can literally shave off 2 years of regret and frustrations and failures within a matter of weeks. The right mentor can do that. And they can propel you ahead faster than they ever got, faster than they were ever able to do whatever that is. So whatever it is that you're looking at, as long as it meets that criteria and you have somebody that can help you along the way, then I say go for it. For me, the answer to all of those is something I call social marketing. Social marketing. And if you're interested in learning about social marketing, then head over to riseabovepodcast.com/social marketing. So riseabovepodcast.com/marketing. Here's the 3 things you can do right now as we wrap this up. Number 1 is you can go back to last episode and you can figure out what your freedom number is. Figure out your freedom number. The next thing you can do is evaluate the 3 ways that you can start creating cash flow today or tomorrow. So start thinking of 3 things. Evaluate 3 things and see if they meet those 7 essentials that I listed. And then ask yourself this question, if they do. Do people in that industry make the kind of money that I want to make? Do they make the kind of money that I want to make and that I need to excel past my freedom number? Do they live the kind of life that I want to live? Is their lifestyle what I want? Or are they the hustler? This is what I don't want. That's grinding from 7 a.m., to midnight or whatever it is. Hustle, hustle, hustle. I don't want that. I want lifestyle. I want specific spurts of energy that get me 10x the result. So do they have that? And most importantly, are they the kind of person that you would like to be like? Are they the kind of person that you aspire to be? Okay. There's many people that are very successful in many different things. But when it comes down to it, does the fruit of their tree reflect what you want the fruit of your tree to reflect? Here's what not to do. Don't sit and ponder for the next 30, 60, 90 days. Okay? Don't ask your broke relatives or broke friends what you should do. They don't know, or they wouldn't be broke. Don't ask somebody who's been in jail for 40 years, how to live a life of retirement. They're not going to know. Most importantly, do not let fear hold you back. Take action and do it now. Do it now, my friends. And with that, I cannot wait for you to hear next week's episode. I will keep that to what it is. You'll get some emails and so forth. But for now, I want you to go back through, maybe re-listen to this, and take action. Take care and God bless.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.